Everybody here in the garden has been enjoying the raspberries our plants have been producing this season. Now the fruits are produced on these older canes. They're called floricanes, flora for flowering. So our flowering canes are where the fruit is produced. But the plants have also been actively growing new shoots. These first year shoots are called primocanes, and this would be an example of that. And this cane is going to produce next year's fruit. Now if you look at our trellis, we have a 2-wire system, and I have all of the older or flowering canes tied to one side of the trellis, and all of my new canes, as they grow, I'm tying them up to the opposite side of the trellis. And I do this really just for a management purpose. It keeps my older shoots and newer shoots separate. Raspberries have a very interesting life cycle because each shoot lives for 2 years. The first year it grows, the second year it flowers and fruits. And then after it's finished fruiting, we remove it. So by tying all of the same year canes to a single side, I know that in the fall I could just come in here and remove all the all the canes that are tied to that side of the trellis. Now if you're having difficulty telling which canes are the old ones and which ones are new, one of the first things you want to look for are fruits. This cane has no flowers or fruits on it. And the older cane back here, you can see there's some spent fruits. We've picked all those and ate them, but you can see that this is where the flowers and fruit had been produced. Another thing you can look for is a woodiness on the stems. The older canes have sort of a woody bark looking texture to them. And if you look at these new canes, they're nice and smooth, and they have a waxy sheen to them, this little blue wax. So as the canes grow, our first year canes, our primocanes, they're very vigorous. They can grow to great lengths and sometimes become a bit unruly. So that's one of the reasons I like to tie them up. We also are going to want to prune them, and this is called tipping, and we do this for a number of reasons, mainly fruit production. What we want to do for tipping is come into our canes once they've reached a height beyond 3.5 feet. We want to cut them back to chest level or about 3.5 feet. And I like to cut just above a side shoot, such as this. And I always cut at a little bit of an angle. And I'm going to remove this cut material from the garden in case there's any disease. We don't want to leave debris laying around. And when we tip the canes, what we're doing, as you can see here, there's a little lateral shoot. We're encouraging this lateral shoot and all the other lateral shoots up around the top of the plant to grow. And this is where next year's fruit is going to be produced. And when we tip and produce this lateral growth, we're encouraging that fruit to be up high at a level where it's very easy to harvest it, but it also prevents fruits from growing all the way down the stem. If we didn't tip, the fruit would be produced all the way down the stem. It'd be closer to the soil, so you have dirtier fruit and more potential for disease. So by tipping, we're making our harvest easier. We're also going to encourage a higher yield and larger, better quality fruits. Now we're going to use this same type of pruning on our blackberry plants as well. Very similar process. And not all of our canes are going to reach the same height at the same time. They grow at different rates. So you're going to want to come in and do this tipping several times throughout the summer. We'll return again to our brambles in the fall, and at that time we're going to remove all of the flowering canes that have finished producing fruit for the season, which will make some room for next year's new growth. We're also going to come back in the winter time to do a little bit additional pruning to next year's flowering canes, which will help increase production.